Hey, what's up, Will? Finally making another video in the space room, and guess what? It's December, my favorite calendar flip of the whole year, from November to December. My second favorite, of course, is from October to November after Halloween. But it all goes downhill from here, you know. I like January better than February, which I like better than March, which I like better than April. So it goes the other way, you know. The closer, like, generally I like the months with a number below 3 or 4 in the ones place, okay. And the colder they are, the more I like them. So I want to talk about a number of things in this video. Oh, I didn't get to model my Christmas rings, okay. And I may not try on all of them because some of them are just downright tight. I'm kind of disappointed in how they vary in size. I thought they were like an adjustable ring where you could change the size, but unfortunately they're just a package where some are bigger than others, and they're all, I guess, about my size. I'm like a 7, so, for them to be just a little tight is perfect. Okay, so like there's my Rudolph or reindeer type ring. There's a bow on a present. There's a Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. There's a candy cane, red and green. And then I have some other, let's see, a present, a Santa Claus with a gold face. And then, of course, for the week after Christmas, leading up to New Year's, I have plain old red and green for when you want it to be somewhat Christmassy, but not expressively so. So, very pleased. And what I've decided to do about my angel, other than get a reimbursement of sort, I decided to just, for the time being, resolve not to care. Just basically let it be and just put her on my windowsill, knowing that she will never dance and that that's okay for now, unless and until I can go to the store and physically look at another one, not online. I'm just okay, just like the broken clock that's only right twice a day. She can be just like a working one when the sun doesn't shine. So, she can be just like the other one in not dancing when there's no direct light on her. So, I guess there's always an optimistic way to look at things. But, what I would like to talk about in this video, well, really a number of things. I could just find so many things to talk about. This is another little boy doll that I found that I bought years ago. Well, it was probably intended to be a girl. But I like to see it as a boy. At that age, it's really more of a matter of perception. And some dolls look like they could be either one. But I decided that it's a boy. It's some kind of a clown doll. And while I could probably remove that redness from his nose, I'd rather just keep it because it looks like a little boy with a cold, which I am also obsessed with, colds. And so I decided that is a little boy with a runny nose, and that he's wearing a necktie, and his hair just is a little bit longer than a lot of boys. So I would like to talk about the irony in this video of how, I want to talk about, like, let's see, where's my other little boy that I had? Oh yeah, the little boy, I'm calling him Nullah. If you've ever seen that movie, I think it's called Australia, simply Australia, but the little boy's name is Nullah. So he looks like an Aborigine little boy. And of course, there's all kind of little girl dolls. Just basically overflowing with little girl dolls that, see, I had found some more of them. And I'm not exactly sure where I put that other one that I had found, but I sure do have a lot. Let's see, I think I may have put her in this. Yeah, I found the brunette little girl like that. Little Dollar General type girl. And there's a pretty Christmas little girl. I've been going through and kind of trading out their stupid rubber bands that they put in their hair and putting actual little scrunchies, mini scrunchies. Because the other things do horrible things over time to a doll's hair. And I don't want that to happen. So, what I like to talk about in this video is just the irony. You know, I've wanted to make a video about this, but just never could figure out how to quite put it into words. But, you know, I sit and think. I think so much. Yeah, it's one of the downfalls of being a Gemini is we think way too much. You know, too much thought, not enough action. And, so, you know, I just think a lot about how, you know, why? If I don't like actual little boys in general, I mean, I don't want to have any children in general, boy or girl, but, you know, I'd have to say that if I had to have an actual child, the one that I especially wouldn't want would be a son. I would, you know, slightly, like, I don't want any child, but if I had to raise one, I would choose to raise a daughter. And, you know, and the reasoning is very simple. Because the childhood years, I think, are easier with a girl, though I wouldn't really know, since I didn't have any brothers. I'll never know, you know, what a brother may have been like. But, you know, childhood is slightly easier with a girl. In the sense that it, like, I don't know how to explain this. It somewhat passes faster. You know, like, as I've stated before, you know, boys and girls, you know, they do similar things at similar ages, but because girls are slightly more mature, they somewhat progress more quickly in childhood through those difficult stages. And so that's why adolescence is so much harder in girls, because they also, you know, progress through that easier stage of childhood faster than boys. Like, you know how middle childhood is kind of like this lull between, you know, the difficulties of having a younger child that's just learning how to do things, and the difficulties of having a teenager that thinks they're smarter than you. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like where they're in between. They know they're not as smart as you, but they're getting pretty smart. You know, they're starting to know how to do things that they used to not know how to do. So people think that, like, around the 5th grade, you know, middle childhood, roughly ages 6 through 12, you know, I like to say age 12, you know, because if you make puberty the end of middle childhood, then it varies. You know what I'm saying? Like, it lasts longer for some people than others because puberty begins sooner for some people than others. So I like to think of age 12 as the last year of middle childhood, whether or not puberty begins. So, you know, like a 13-year-old that has not hit puberty is not in middle childhood anymore. They're in adolescence, but yet a 12-year-old that is well into puberty is still in middle childhood, you know. Because I like to think of 6th grade, age 12, sort of as the end of it. Because some elementary schools go up to the 6th grade. So, that being said, you know, and I think to myself, you know, why do I treasure these little boy dolls so much? And why do I like freaking little boy dolls? You know, they're like my favorite kind of dolls. They're like the diamonds, whereas the girl dolls are still precious gems. The reason I feel that way, as I've stated before, is because they are so unique and so rare and such an oxymoron. You know what I'm saying? Most people think of a doll as a girl by default. And so when a doll is a little boy, he's basically the exception to that, and that makes him more rare. You know, even an adult male doll yeah, is still good, but not as valuable to me as a younger boy doll. And I know that sounds creepy, but it's the truth. For that reason, that little boys are like the opposite of what you would think of. I mean, other than old people, maybe. When you think of a doll and what it's supposed to be, little boys are pretty much as far from that, as you can get. So they're very precious to me because as I've stated before, and it's ironic because like when I think about the kind of child that I would not want to have, a little boy, that happens to also be the kind of doll that I do want to have. The kind of doll that I will pay like several times as much for as I would just a plain old ordinary girl doll. And here's a little black girl. But, and believe it or not, like a black little boy doll or ethnic little boy doll is even more valuable than a white one for the same reason. Because if they do have one little boy doll, he tends to be white. So, it just all goes by the rarity of it. And the rarity is expressively because of what boys are and what boys do and how they are in childhood. So, it's just, and as I've said before, like the reason I would not want to have a little boy in particular, but also not a little girl, because, boys are just a higher dosage in childhood of, what all babies are. They're just a baby slightly longer than a girl is the problem. That's why, to me, they are undesirable, because they just have a slightly extended infancy. And then, later on, that's a good thing because they have a slightly extended middle childhood by an even longer period of time. Hence the saying that men are from Mars, because it takes longer to orbit the sun. So, it's like they're going through their childhood at a slower rate. And as a result, they just get into more trouble. They're just more of a baby for a longer period of time. And it takes them longer, to learn not to get on furniture and not to break things and not to, you know what I'm saying. And most importantly, they catch a slightly higher number of colds than a girl in the early part of childhood. It just always made me mad when I would read about how, in a typical family, younger boys catch slightly more colds than girls their age, in the first like decade or dozen years of life. But then in adolescence, somewhere that flips around. And then adulthood, it's the moms who catch more than the dads. And it's for two reasons. Number one, it's because girls and moms have more to do with younger children, because not many teenage boys are going to babysit. And if they have younger siblings, older brothers aren't going to have as much to do with them, which is why I was always catching them from my younger sister. So teenagers, that have younger siblings, if they're girls, are very likely to take care of younger siblings. And when you get to be an adult, moms have more to do with children. They're more likely to be very hands-on with dealing with the children if they don't stay home with them all day. And the other reason is because the more colds you have in early childhood, the less you're going to have later on in life, because you're already immune to them. You're immune to those strands. So, but I mean, by and large, childhood just tends to be the part of the lifespan where, for almost everyone, there just aren't a whole lot of people who would say, I never had any colds or viral illnesses when I was a child, but now that I'm an adult, I'm catching everything that goes around. Well, you just don't really hear that. I'm sure there has been someone in this world who is like that. I'm sure it exists, but I've just never met anyone like that. Pretty much everyone I know had at least as many colds per year as a child or more. You know, your sickly years where contagious disease are concerned tend to be your childhood. And, you know, the first dozen years are the worst, and then the next dozen years are the second worst in my case. So if I had a choice between working at a nursing home or a daycare, I would definitely pick the nursing home. Because, I mean, you know, let's just face it, the old people are not going to all huddle around on the floor and play patty cake with each other, you know, and they're not always like putting things in their mouth, and you know what I'm saying. And, you know, they exercise a lot of precaution to protect such people. So yeah, if I had my pick, either nursing home or daycare, I would definitely pick nursing home to work in. And so, like, you know, I've kind of tried to avert that trope, you know, of moms catching the extra colds that they didn't get in childhood from their kids by not having any kids. Because I don't want to be like, you know, catching more colds as an adult, you know, but of course that's not going to happen with me. I mean, you know, there just aren't a lot of people, you know, that get old. I mean, you know, colds are most frequent, as I stated before, in the early years. So, I mean, there just aren't a whole lot of people, you know, I mean, they might be more severe in older people, but they're not really frequent. Frequency, that tends to happen the younger you are. So, you know, I mean, you just probably not gonna meet someone who suddenly turned 65 and then started catching a dozen colds per year. That just doesn't happen, unless they they went to work at a daycare because they didn't save enough for retirement. That's all they could do. Or, you know, they started taking care of a bunch of grandkids who all went to daycare. But even so, you know, most of the older people that even take care of their grandkids don't get but a fraction of what the kids are bringing home. So, yep. Um, so yeah, it's just, I mean, from my experience, what usually happens is like, you know, as the kids get older, they move away. It gets to the point where older people are like, you know, like, this is the first time I've been sick in like however many years. Like, it could be 5 years since the last time they were sick. And it's like they actually forget when it actually was because it happens so seldomly. Uh, like they can't even remember the year. It's kind of the way it's been with my mom. It's like, you know, she may have caught a lot of what we brought home when we were growing up, but then as we got older and then my sister left, it was like, I mean, she could easily go 5 years without any colds. And I don't ever remember, certainly my maternal grandmother who had 5 children, I don't ever remember, she would claim like she doesn't get colds or something like that. And I thought that was so bizarre. But then it makes sense. I mean, you live to be, say, 50 years old, and at a rate of only 3 per year, you'll easily have 150 different viruses. So you'll build antibodies. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and post this video.